根據聯合國糧農組織 FAO 及相關產業數據，中國大陸的菸草種植面積與產量長期穩居世界第一。全球與中國產量概況全球佔比，中國的菸草產量約佔全球總產量的1/3至40%。以2023年為例，中國菸葉產量約229.67萬噸。世界排名，在全球原料菸草生產國中，排名前3的分別是中國、印度和巴西。主要產區，在中國大陸境內，雲南省是最大的菸葉產區，其產量約佔全國總量的40%。除了雲南、貴州、河南、湖南及四川也是主要的生產省份。產業特點政企合一，中國菸草業由國家菸草專賣局與中國菸草總公司實行統一管理，是全球最大的捲菸製造商。內需與出口，雖然中國產量最高，但由於虎門銷煙成效不彰，國內市場龐大，擁有約3億多菸民，大部分產品供應內銷。在菸葉出口方面，巴西有時會位居全球出口量首位。實行政企合一的專賣制度，使得菸草收益直接轉化為國家與政府的強大財力支持。一、菸草業對國庫、財政的貢獻。中國菸草總公司長期以來是中國大陸的第一納稅人，其上繳的財政收入佔全國總財政收入約6%至10%。利稅規模，2025年數據，全行業實現工商稅利總額16,570億元人民幣，年增3.5%，實際上繳國庫的財政總額達15,800億元人民幣。2024年數據，稅利總額為16,008億元，上繳財政15,446億元。財政功能，菸草稅收是維持國家公共服務、基礎設施建設以及國防開支的重要資金來源。坊間流傳煙民每抽一支煙都在為航母添火鉚釘，反映出菸草稅收與軍費支出。2025年預算約1.78萬億人民幣，在規模上的高度關聯。二、中國共產黨與政府獲得的利益。由於中國菸草採取壟斷體制，其利益不僅在於賬面稅收，更體現在政治控制與資源分配上。政企合一的控制權，國家菸草專賣局與中國菸草總公司是一套人馬，兩塊牌子，受國務院與工業和信息化部領導。這種結構確保了共產黨對這筆龐大現金流的絕對支配權。利潤上繳與再分配利潤上繳比例，菸草企業作為第一類資源型央企，其稅後利潤上繳比例高達35%，是所有國企中最高的等級之一。地方利益，地方政府透過20%的菸葉稅以及分得的25%增值稅獲取利益，這在雲南、貴州等種煙大省是維持基層行政運作與鄉村振興項目的核心財源。政治與社會戰略，菸草產業支撐了數百萬煙農的生計與菸草供應鏈的就業，成為共產黨維持社會穩定與農村經濟的重要工具。其產生的巨大收益被視為資助軍事、科技及對外戰略計劃，如電子煙出口產生的外匯的資金庫。2025年中國菸草稅利分配預測數據，工商稅利總額1.657萬億元人民幣，包含稅金與利潤總和，上繳財政總額1.58萬億元人民幣，實際進入國庫的金額，上繳利潤比例35%。菸草企業稅後利潤上繳中央的比例，地方菸葉稅率20%，由中國菸草向菸葉產地政府繳納。在中國大陸，雖然官方不會直接以共產黨獲得利益為標題列出預算，但由於中國菸草總公司中煙與代表政府的國家菸草專賣局實行政企合一制度，這筆龐大的資金流向完全由執政黨與政府掌握。一、核心利益，利潤上繳，國有資本收益，這是除了稅收之外，國家作為企業股東直接拿走的利潤。上繳比例，中煙屬於最高等級的資源型央企。2025年執行25%的稅後利潤上繳比例，預計金額2025年中煙預計上繳利潤約590億元人民幣。2026年起，財政部已公告將比例調高至35%。二、絕對份額，稅利總額與國庫貢獻。菸草業對國庫的貢獻主要由稅金與利潤兩大塊組成。2025年實現總額，工商稅利總額16,570億元人民幣。上繳財政總額15,800億元人民幣。財政佔比，菸草行業對中央一般公共預算收入的貢獻率高達18%。這意味着中國每100元的政府收入中， 就有約18元來自煙草業。3. 共產黨與政府獲得的隱形利益。雖然共產黨本身不直接列出其從煙草獲得的私有金額，但利益透過以下路徑體現： 1. 國防預算支撐，煙草上繳的1.58萬億元，與中國年度國防預算2025年預計1.78萬億元，規模高度接近，是軍事力量與地緣政治擴張的重要資金墊腳石。 2. 社會維穩與基層運作。 2.1 地方政府分成，透過20%的煙業稅與增值稅分成，直接支撐雲南、貴州等產煙大省的基層行政運作與鄉村振興經費。 2.2 控制權，政企合一結構確保了黨能隨時調動這筆巨大的現金流用於國家戰略項目，如科技發展、民生補貼。總結，雖然無法在預算書上找到給共產黨的支票，但因為中煙是100%黨管國企，其1.58萬億人民幣的財政貢獻即是共產黨維持政權運作、軍事擴張與社會控制的最核心財源。香港加強對電子煙及加熱煙統稱替代煙草產品的管制，其背後確實涉及財政稅收保衛與中煙公司及其背後國家利益的複雜關係。以下從利益結構的角度解釋： 1. 保衛傳統捲煙的稅利體系。中國菸草總公司中煙的利潤核心在於傳統捲煙，稅收流失威脅。如果大量煙民轉向電子煙或加熱煙，而這些產品的稅率略低於傳統捲煙，或者市場被非國有的私營企業如斯摩爾、悦克等佔據，將直接威脅到中煙每年上繳國庫的那1.5萬億元人民幣。一刀切政策，香港與中國大陸在電子煙管制的邏輯高度相似，透過嚴格管制甚至禁售非國標產品，將消費群眾留在傳統捲煙市場，或確保未來的替代產品市場完全由中煙體系掌控。 2. 中煙的市場戰略與利益輸送。香港作為中煙產品走向國際的門戶，其政策方向往往與國家戰略一致。中煙香港06055 HK 中煙在香港設有上市公司，專門負責煙業進出口及免稅業務，禁止民間持有替代煙草產品，實際上是清理了中煙產品的競爭對手。持有即罰款的邏輯，透過法律手段提高替代品的獲取成本與風險，罰款、入獄，強迫成癮者回流至傳統捲煙市場，從而穩固中煙的市場份額及稅利貢獻。 3. 健康名義下的財政考量。雖然香港政府對外強調保障市民健康與防止青少年吸煙，但在分析者眼中，這被視為一種財政與政治的雙重防禦。穩定稅收入，香港煙草稅去年及今年連續調升，若民眾流向黑市電子煙，政府將收不到稅。政治協作，香港在法律上與大陸煙草專賣制度的精神接軌，大陸在2022年將電子煙納入專賣局監管，香港則採取更激進的全面禁止與持有處罰。 4. 總結利益分配邏輯。對香港政府，加強管制確保了煙民回流傳統煙，有利於維持調升後的高額煙稅收入；對中煙及背後勢力，排除了民營電子煙品牌的競爭，保護了傳統煙草及未來中煙研發之加熱煙產品的壟斷利益。對持有者的重罰，不僅是執法，更是為了徹底斷絕替代產品對傳統稅利結構的蠶食。
According to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO, and related industry data, mainland China has long ranked first in the world in terms of tobacco planting area and production. Global and Chinese output profiles global share. China's tobacco production accounts for about 1/3 to 40% of the world's total production. In 2023, for example, China's tobacco leaf production will be about 2.2967 million tons. World rankings. Among the world's raw tobacco producers, the top 3 are China, India, and Brazil. Main production areas within mainland China. Yunnan province is the largest tobacco leaf producing area, accounting for about 40% of the country's total. In addition to Yunnan, Guizhou, Henan, Hunan and Sichuan are also the main producing provinces. Industrial characteristics. Integration of government and enterprise. The Chinese tobacco industry is uniformly managed by the National Tobacco Monopoly Administration and China Tobacco Corporation, and is the world's largest cigarette manufacturer. Domestic demand and exports. Although China has the highest production, due to the poor results of cigarette sales in human, the domestic market is huge, with about 300 million smokers. And most of the products are supplied domestically. In terms of tobacco leaf exports, Brazil sometimes tops the world in terms of export volume. The implementation of the government enterprise integration monopoly system enabled tobacco proceeds to be directly converted into strong financial support from the state and government. The contribution of the tobacco industry to the national treasury, China Tobacco Corporation has long been the first taxpayer in mainland China. And its fiscal revenue paid up accounts for about 6% to 10% of the country's total fiscal revenue. Size of profits and taxes. 2025 data. The industry achieved a total of 1.657 billion yuan in industrial and commercial tax profits, an increase of 3.5% year-on-year. 2024 data. The total tax profit is 1,600.8 billion yuan, with 1,544.6 billion yuan paid to the finance. Fiscal function. Tobacco taxation is an important source of funding to maintain the country's public services, infrastructure construction, and defense spending. There are rumors that smokers are adding rivets to aircraft carriers with every cigarette they smoke, reflecting the high degree of scale between tobacco tax revenue and military spending, about 1.78 trillion yuan in the 2025 budget. Second, the benefits obtained by the Communist Party of China and the government as China Tobacco adopts a monopoly system. Its interests lie not only in book taxation, but also in political control and resource allocation. Control of the unity of government and enterprise. The National Tobacco Monopoly Administration and China Tobacco Corporation are one set of people. Two brands, under the leadership of the State Council and the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology. This structure ensured the Communist Party's absolute dominance over this huge cash flow. Profit payment and redistribution. Profit payment ratio. As a first category, resource-based central enterprise, tobacco enterprises pay up to 35% of their after-tax profits, which is one of the highest grades among all state-owned enterprises. Local interests. Local governments benefit through a 20% tax on tobacco leaves as well as a share of 25% VAT. This is the core source of finance for maintaining grassroots administrative operations and rural revitalization projects in major tobacco-growing provinces such as Yunnan and Guizhou. Political and social strategy. The tobacco industry supported the livelihoods of millions of tobacco farmers and employment in the tobacco supply chain, becoming an important tool for the Communist Party to maintain social stability and the rural economy. The huge gains it generates are seen as a repository for funding military, technological and foreign strategic initiatives, such as the foreign exchange generated by e-cigarette exports. Forecast data of tobacco tax profit distribution in China in 2025. Total industrial and commercial tax profit, RMB 1.657 trillion, including total tax and profit, total finance paid, RMB 1.58 trillion, amount actually entered into the national treasury, proportion of profits paid up to the central government, 35%. Proportion of after-tax profits of tobacco enterprises paid to the central government, local tobacco leaf tax rate, 20%, paid by China Tobacco to the government of tobacco leaf producing, in mainland China, although the official budget will not be listed directly under the heading, Communist Party gains benefits. This huge flow of funds is completely controlled by the ruling party and government due to the government enterprise integration system implemented by China Tobacco Corporation, China Tobacco Corporation, and the National Tobacco Monopoly Bureau, which represents the government. Core benefits: profit payment, state-owned capital gains. This is a profit taken directly by the state as a corporate shareholder in addition to taxation. Up payment ratio: China Tobacco belongs to the highest level of resource-based central enterprises. 2025. Enforce a 25% post-tax profit pay-up ratio. Estimated amount in 2025. China Tobacco is expected to pay profits of about 59 billion yuan. From 2026, the Ministry of Finance has announced an increase in the ratio to 35%. Second, absolute share. Total tax profit and contribution to the Treasury. The tobacco industry's contribution to the national treasury consists mainly of tax dollars and profits, total realized in 2025. Total industrial and commercial tax profits, RMB 1,657 billion. Total finance paid, RMB 1,580 billion. Fiscal share. The tobacco industry contributes up to 18% of the central general public budget revenue. This means that about 18 of every 100 yuan of government revenue in China comes from the tobacco industry. The invisible benefits obtained by the Communist Party and the government, although the communists themselves do not directly list the private amounts they receive from tobacco. The benefits are reflected through the following paths. 1. Defense budget support. The $1.58 trillion paid on tobacco is highly close to the size of China's annual defense budget, expected at $1.78 trillion in 2025, and is an important funding stepping stone for military power and geopolitical expansion. 2. Social stability and grassroots operations. 1. Local government sharing. Through the 20% tobacco leaf tax and value-added tax sharing. It directly supports the grassroots administrative operations and rural revitalization funds in major tobacco-producing provinces such as Yunnan and Guizhou. 2. Control. The structure of government enterprise integration ensures that the party can mobilize this huge cash flow for national strategic projects, such as technological development. Livelihood subsidies. At any time. In summary, although it is impossible to find a check to the Communist Party on the budget book, because China Tobacco is a 100% party-run state-owned enterprise, its financial contribution of RMB 1.58 trillion is the core source of the Communist Party's maintenance of regime operation, military expansion and social control. The tightening of controls on e-cigarettes and heated cigarettes, collectively referred to as alternative tobacco products, in Hong Kong does involve a complex relationship between fiscal and taxation, defense and China Tobacco, and the national interests behind it. The following is analyzed from the perspective of interest structure. 1. Defend the tax system of traditional cigarettes, the core of China Tobacco Corporation. China Tobacco's profits lies in traditional cigarettes. Threats of tax revenue drain. If a large number of smokers turn to e-cigarettes or heated cigarettes, and the tax rate on these products is lower than traditional cigarettes, or the market is occupied by non-state-owned private enterprises, such as Sino-Ocean, UK, etc., it will directly threaten the 1.5 trillion yuan that China Tobacco pays to the national treasury every year. One-size-fits-all policy. The logic of e-cigarette regulation in Hong Kong and mainland China is highly similar, by strictly regulating or even banning the sale of non-national standard products. To keep the consumer masses in the traditional cigarette market, or to ensure that the future alternative product market is completely controlled by the China tobacco system. 2. Market strategy and interest transport of China tobacco as a gateway for Chinese tobacco products to go international. Hong Kong's policy direction is often consistent with national strategy. China Tobacco Hong Kong, 06055, HK. China Tobacco has a listed company in Hong Kong, specializing in the import and export of tobacco leaves and duty-free business. The ban on private possession of alternative tobacco products effectively cleansed out the competitors of Chinese tobacco products. The logic of penalty for holding. Increasing the cost and risk of obtaining alternatives through legal means, fines, imprisonment, forces addicts to return to the traditional cigarette market, thereby consolidating the market share and tax profit contribution of China Tobacco. 3. Financial considerations under the name health. Although the Hong Kong government emphasizes protecting citizens' health and preventing teenagers from smoking, in the eyes of analysts, this is seen as a dual defense of finance and politics. Stable tax revenue. The tobacco tax in Hong Kong has been raised continuously last year and this year. If people flow to the black market for e-cigarettes, the government will not receive the tax. Political collaboration. Hong Kong is legally in line with the spirit of the tobacco monopoly system in mainland China. Mainland China will include e-cigarettes under the regulation of the Exclusive Bureau in 2022, while Hong Kong will adopt a more radical comprehensive ban and possession penalties. 4. Summarize the logic of distribution of interests to the Hong Kong government. Strengthening controls ensures that smokers return to traditional cigarettes, which is conducive to maintaining the high cigarette tax revenue after the increase to China Tobacco, and the forces behind it. It excludes competition from private e-cigarette brands and protects the monopoly interests of traditional tobacco and future heated cigarette products developed by China Tobacco. Heavy penalties for holders, not only to enforce the law, but also to completely cut off the cannibalization of the traditional tax profit structure by alternative products.